Big Daddy Roth here in Dutch, California, and while Dutch is working on his little three-wheel side hack over here, I'm going to sort of lay down the thing we're trying to do here today. You guys have been writing in and asking a lot about how Dutch holds his brush and that kind of stuff, and what kind of brushes he uses and all that stuff. And we're going to go over that with him today and try to find out how he started and how he got developed this thing. He's the man that started it all. And all you pinstripers out there, you might be too young to remember this, but Dutch is the guy that took that brush in his hand for the first time, and when we were nosing and decking those cars, and he'd start laying those lines down. So today we're going to talk to Dutch about that and see what kind of things he has to tell you about being a better pinstriper, and the things that you can do in your own place to help you yourself make great strides in your own work. Because you don't notice it yourself, but when you see a guy like Dutch do these things, then you can judge for yourself what you're doing wrong, how you can improve your own style. Okay, gang, here we are in Dutch's studio, and I've had so many guys write in to Dutch about these things that I want to cover some of them before we get into doing anything with the brush. And the first thing is, tell me about that story about the first time you ever did a custom again.
Well, you mean a bike?
Yeah. No, the car.
Yeah. Well, I just seen this guy used to come into this car lot and he used to charge $1 to stripe a car. And he'd do it in about 10 minutes and he'd get $1, so he'd do about 5 cars, go out with $5, and I said, wow, that's pretty neat. Yeah. He'll pick up $5 like that, because at that time, I could say if he could do, nobody was making any money. That was the Depression. Yeah. So there was, that seemed like a good, beat washing dishes.
Okay, what about the first, those little chicken scratch design you got in the hood and deck in the 50s?
Oh, that all came from covering scratches.
That came from actually
covering scratches. Guys that do a nose job and a deck job, then they get in a hurry on their preparation, and they put the paint on before the primer was good and dry, and all them scratches would come back, which happened. And I had a guy come in, and we were just outlining the wheel wells and stuff at that time. And this guy come in and he said, hey, can you do something with them scratches? So I put a line where there was a scratch, then I put a line just like it where there was no scratch, and so forth and so on, and composed this thing that was all made like that. It covered scratches made from a circular grinder is all they did. And the form, the curves and everything in the form, that's all the curves of the body grinder. That's what established the whole form, was the scratches being made by a grinder.
So the guys that copied you did not know what they were copying?
No, they didn't know that originated, of course, in the idea of covering up scratches. But that's what it was, where it all originated. And everybody went wild. They loved it. They said, it's great, put one of them things online, right? Well, they ain't even got any scratches, right? But, I mean, that's where it all started. It all started from covering scratches.
Okay, now your background is from a sign painting family, right?
Oh, yeah. Everybody painted something.
Okay, what did you do as a kid? Did you pick up your dad's brushes?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did he show you what the...
No, he wouldn't. He'd say, you'll learn. Just keep practicing. No, he would never teach me nothing.
Did you ever believe you'd learn?
I didn't know. I just kept doing it. But it was available. The stuff was there. And the sign painting, of course, is similar. Although Dad never did any science at all, ever. Or, I mean, any striping. He says, that's a specialty. I don't do that.
He's strictly a sign painter.
Yeah. And he was a superb gold leaf guy. Was probably one of the best that ever lived.
Yeah, I heard his reputation for guys.
Yeah, and just the gold leaf to him was just nothing to it, and it was fantastic. They used to farm him out from all the other shops just to do gold leaf. And he did a thing down at Frank Wiggins' trade school in L.A., which had the sign painting school and everything in there. He painted the sign on the place, and it looks like it's carved into the brick building, and people go over and feel it all the time. Because it does. It looks like it's carved right into the building. Fantastic.
Well, now, what about these guys that don't have any kind of a background for sign painting stuff? How can they get started?
I think, first of all, you got to be able to draw. You've got to have control over your hands. If you don't have control over your hands, there you are. That's it. I mean, you know, nowadays everybody's trying to say everyone's equal. Everybody ain't equal. Everybody's an individual. Everybody's different. Some people got a talent in one thing, some people got a talent in another. And if you can't draw or do things with your hands, forget it. You're not going to be a sign painter or a striper. Give it up.
What if you have a real bad desire to be one?
Well, then you might overcome it with endless practice.
How would you start?
Well, you've got to start out by, well,
what do you
first,
draw? What do you draw?
If you're going to get into signs, you got to realize that the letter, you don't invent numbers, you don't invent letters. Those letters have already been here for hundreds of years. Nobody is so precious that they make a new letter. That's what my dad always said. He says, use the ones that are in the book. Learn how to make them. He says, then if you want to mess around and gussy them up and make them a little, do it, but learn how to do it right. Legit sign work first, then play with it. Most of the guys want to play with it right away.
Yeah.
And the thing with signs is that an amateur, someone who knows nothing about sign painting, can tell when there's something the matter with a sign. Everyone spots it.
Yeah.
Everyone sees, people who are not painters see an amateur sign. They know it's an amateur sign the minute they look at it. Because they don't use the out-of-the-book lettering. They try to invent letters. Also, they all have one tendency in common, which is really wild. Beginners always make tall, skinny letters. Always. And if you only concentrate on short, squatty letters, they look more professional. Amateurs invariably will make tall, skinny letters. Every time. Without fail. And you see it.
So then what did you start drawing when you messing around? Did you draw airplane? Did you draw cars? What did you draw?
I drew every kind of damn thing, because that's all I ever did in school was draw. I didn't do anything else. I never did any of the schoolwork at all when I was in school. All I did was draw. I sit there and draw. That's all I ever did. They didn't like it? Too bad. That's all I did was draw. Okay. And I draw the desk, I draw the wall, I draw the what was going on outside. Or in fact, I used to like to draw pictures of ink bottles. But I draw pictures of everything, and I think at one time I reached a point where maybe I had already drawn a picture of almost everything. So then I started making up stuff to draw, you know, inventing things. I could draw pictures of dinosaurs and, you know, and cars and bikes were nice, you know, motorcycles, because they've got all their mechanism out in the open, you know, they're all covered up with a bunch of tin. And you can see everything from a bike. That's why bikes that are faired in never sell. They never have. Every time they try it, it's a failure. Or cars that look like airplanes never sell. Never. Yeah. We've got a whole history of cars that came out and looked like airplanes and never sold. Companies went out of business, like Studebaker and everybody else, that made a car look like an airplane.
So when somebody suggests a sign job to you, you've already got a picture of it in your head.
Oh, yeah. Practice. Yeah. So then, and I use a legit letter at most of the time, except for, you know, the ones that you noticed that I changed for the sake of speed or whatever. Yeah. But you gotta know the legit letter first. Then you can play with it. And and there's books full.
Yeah,
and my dad said that. Nobody is so precious that they invent a letter.
I agree with that. These guys work for hundreds of years to develop that Roman alphabet.
Yeah, and all of a sudden this upstart's going to come along and change all that.
Yeah.
Well, with lettering, you're not covering up scratches. It's a different thing.
So to start with the sign, you've already got a picture of it in your head, right?
Yeah, I see the whole thing right there. Boom.
Okay.
That's why, if you notice, I never make layouts hardly ever.
You use guidelines?
I know sometimes I don't do that either.
Don't use guidelines?
No, I use tape a lot now. That's more convenient. Because a lot of times you have to figure out how to get the guideline off after you're done. The tape works better. I just put some tape there. You just stay close to it.
I think what I'd like to do is have you start out with the sign and show, you know, how the palette works. And
yeah. It's all
start the discussion of the palette.
Yeah, I think it's not as critical on the palette in signs as it is in striping. Striping, it's all on the palette. That's where it's at. And it's only practice. There's no way that you can transmit this information to somebody else. You couldn't do it. Because there's no dials to turn or anything and say you put 2 thousandths of this or 5 thousandths of that or so many grams. There's no information that you can transmit other than what we'll do. Yeah. And then from there, it's just up to practice. There's another thing too, especially the striping, which I think is more so than the same thing. When you're practicing striping, and if you're really into it, if it is not the most important thing in the world to you, you ain't gonna do it.
Okay, that's gonna...
It's got to become an obsession. It's got to become the most important thing to be able to make an absolutely perfect straight line like a machine made it. Okay. You've got to imitate a machine, and you've got to put your head into that, and it's very much like yoga. In fact, if you get deep into striping, you can actually go away and meditate while your body is striping. And
so there's no room for drugs or...
No room at all. They don't work. They don't do anything.
Okay.
Good or bad. I mean, bad because you'll wander off in your thinking. No.
No room for drugs of any kind.
No. Okay. It don't work. Just had nothing but a bad effect. Never a good one.
How about the guys that fool themselves and thinking they can smoke a joint or something and do some good work? And then when they come back later and look at it...
That's the big difference. I think that's the difference between drugs and booze. I think that's what the big difference is. Lots of guys, when they're drunk, think up a bunch of things, and the next morning they wake up and say, God, that was a dumb idea. But most of the dopers still think it was a good one. And it was dumb. Right? Yeah. Next day they look at it and they still think it's good.
What about the palette? I noticed you use a phone book all the time. Use that all the time?
No, I used to use anything but handy, but when I was doing an awful lot of the work, I needed lots of palettes, so that was just a convenience to use that. And there's something common to find, a phone book. Plenty of them around. Them little square buildings they got them in.
What kind of palette are you going to use today?
Well, I know we just use a piece of this cardboard. Probably just use this to look good as anything.
Okay.
And we'll get into where it all begins. In fact, as the striping is concerned, more so. See, I notice you don't palette a whole lot.
No.
Yeah. But see, to me, that's where it's all at.
But I'm not a good striper. I'm a speed striper.
Yeah.
I go to the agencies. You do good work. That's why I can't show them how I do it, because it's not the right way.
Well, I'm not sure whether mine's the right way either, because although it works, but I mean, see, when I first started striping, I had no one to learn it. I didn't even know what kind of brush to use. In fact, what happened was I seen the work on things. I said, some guy took a brush and he made a line on there. Now, how do you do that? So I got a quill, and I fought with a quill for years.
You did the chisel edge of a quill?
I used a small quill for striping.
Oh, boy.
And I didn't know any better. And finally, I found out there was a special brush for that. And when I got that special brush, I mean, it was so easy with that, by having the right one. But I had no idea. I also didn't know what kind of paint anybody used. So I figure if you're doing cars, use car paint, right? So I used a regular lacquer like you paint cars with. And I fought that for years and years, and got to where I was doing them, until I ultimately ran into another striper, and we were talking about what we were using, and he says, lacquer? He says, how can you possibly use lacquer? And I said, don't everybody? I don't know no different. He says, it's impossible to do that in lacquer. So I said, well, what do you use? And he showed me the enamel that he was using, which happened to be at that time the one-shot, which all they made was white. They didn't make any color.
Right, I remember that.
And it was so easy to do it with that compared to the lacquer that I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
How about that quill brush? You got pretty proficient at striping with the quill brush before you went to the striping brush?
I got by with it.
And then when you finally got a striping brush, it just became real easy.
Yeah, I got by with a quill. I mean, I remember one of the first few jobs I did for that same car lot, they didn't like. Oh, is that terrible? Looks like the waves are in it.
Let's talk about thinners for a minute, and different striping weather. Use the same thinners when it's hot, when it's cold?
No, you got to adjust to that. Like right now, it's almost a little too cold for comfort, but it'd be perfect for striping. Because you don't want a lot of clothes on you when you're striping easy. It gets in your way. But in real hot weather, of course, it wants to dry too fast. So on the one shot, I just use a little teeny bit of oil in it, or kerosene either way, to slow it down. But you don't want to overtrain on it, or it'll never dry.
You say oil?
Take motor oil.
Motor oil?
Regular normal old motor oil. Stove comes out of the same hole in the ground.
Okay.
The kerosene works fine, but out here, nowadays, you say kerosene and they go, what's that? They don't know what kerosene is anymore.
How about diesel oil?
That'll probably work too. Yeah, same hole in the ground.
And in the warm weather?
Warm weather, you want to use the oil in it to slow it down because it'll dry so damn fast that you can't control it. And in cold weather, you can use it just as is. And in fact, cold weather is really the best for striping.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And real hot weather, what about real hot weather? A little more oil?
A little more, yeah. Now see, when I use lacquer, I use the retarder in it. Now before we knew about the retarder, we used to use banana oil to retard the lacquer. It worked. That's what's in nail polish. That's lacquer with banana oil. That's all it is. The big Jippo. It's the same stuff. Automotive paint's all it is. It's the same stuff. That's the world Jippo. They get the nail polish. It's just lacquer and banana oil mix. That's why it smells good. It's got the banana oil. It smells good to some people. But but that's really critical. That's for the weather. You know, cold weather is really the best.
I like cold weather to striping.
Yeah, it's much more.
I don't like windy days.
Windy, forget it.
It just takes the thinners right out of the paint.
Windy. No, yeah, windy enough that it literally blows the brush around. And you're trying to set it down and the thing's blowing around and you forget it. You can't do it. You just don't have it.
Now when you say brush, what kind of brushes have you been using?
I started out with the Grumbacher's. I played with the Max, I couldn't get anywhere with them. Went back to the Grumbacher's, and then I was down at a paint store one day, and I seen these things in there, and they're called Hillers, is what they were called at that time. And they were like 40 cents. And so I got a couple of them and just threw them, because they were threw them in my kit and didn't use them for years. Finally one day I pulled them out and started playing with it. And I said, where have I been? The whole thing all over again. I've been fighting all this misery with these terrible brushes. And that's all I used until the guy, I think, died that made them.
Yeah, I can't find
I think one guy made them all, and that was it. And as far as I'm concerned, it's pretty much the end of me. I mean, when they're gone, I got 2, 3 of them left. That's it. I'm going to try fighting this new design that you brought over. See if that works. But it still ain't a Hiller.
Well, how long do you think it takes to get a brush to where it'll strike good, if it's going to strike good at all, in oil?
Well, it takes a couple of days of playing with it before it gets itself into shape.
Now, I noticed you washed the one I gave you with shampoo, soap and water.
Yeah, well, the reason I did, a lot of them brushes, they package them with gelatin on them. And if you try to wash that out of there with thinner, the thinner don't attack gelatin. The only thing that attacks the gelatin is water.
Yeah.
So you got to get rid of that gelatin that's in there. These don't look like they were packed in it, but I did it anyway. The Grumbacher's and the Hillers were all packaged in gelatin to keep their shape.
Right.
And you had to get rid of that gelatin.
Yeah.
So you wash out with shampoo. I use Tide works real good. And then they're just limp as a dish rag then. And just get them into a shape and hang them up and let them dry. Then you go into oil from there and then finally start trying to play with them.
Now, you do the same thing with your quills? You do the washing out soap and water too? What about the quills? You just go to the store and see what you like and you buy it, or
you get about 4 of each size, and you usually end up, if you're lucky, with one of them that you'd really like.
Yeah. Even though they're the same brand, they are different.
Because they're all handmade. They're different. The French Masters. That's the ones I like.
That's a Lang nickel, or is that a Grumbacher?
No, they're just called French Masters. They're made of natural quills. They're not synthetic. There's something more legit about them because they're made the old way.
But they're still squirrel hair, right?
Yeah, it's all squirrel hair. Except for your sash brushes and things like that, fitches and things like that. And the sign painters call them fitches and house painters call them sash tools. That's made, the good ones are made out of pig bristle. So far there's no synthetic bristle has been worth a damn, although DuPont's got a tapered one now. And now they've got another one where they do something that blows the surface of the hair up, like natural hair, to where it holds paint in the brush. But so far that's just big house paint or sign, big signs.
The sign quills are all squirrel hair.
All squirrel hair.
What about the watercolor brushes?
Those are also the squirrel.
Squirrel?
Yeah. And some of them are red sable.
Sable?
Yeah. Then there's a brand name called Greyhound. I don't know what they're made out of, but I'm sure it ain't a Greyhound.
I know there's no such thing as a camel hair.
No, there never was a camel hair brush. In fact, I used to tell people that when they asked about camel hair brushes, I used to say, see the shape of that brush? Look at that. Now that's the natural shape of that hair on a camel. Now look at that and think about where it came from. And I says, and they only get one of them at each camel. Right? Because it grows in stubbly on the next one. Right?
I don't know.
Now where do you think that natural shape would grow, right?
Where do you think the name came from, the camel?
I think there was an antique time when that style of brush may have actually been made out of camel hair in some ancient times.
So just
and so the name just continued on for that style of brush, not necessarily that it was made out of that. Because most people don't know a fish is made out of pig bristle.
Yeah.
And the good ones. That's another thing too with the signs. If you think you're going to get the paint out of the local hardware store and the brushes, you ain't going to get them there.
What do these kids do when they're out in the tulies like that?
I don't know. I really don't know unless they take a trip into a bigger town or mail ordered or whatever. Yeah. You get Montroy, they mail order. And say like you got a bunch of quills from any of the big companies that you could mail order them from. So you get 2 or 3 of each size, right?
Yeah.
And you'd end up with some good ones out of that.
Now what about the container?
I can't really go there and look at them and pick them out and say which one's best. You got to try it.
You got to try it. I know that.
Every brush has got its own.
A lot of guys will spit on them and they'll look at them, but you can't really tell by spitting on them.
You cannot really tell.
Now the other thing that always threw me for a loop was the container to put the paint in. I started out with a cup that had a paper cup that had a little wax to it. I used to get
good. It retards your paint.
It retards it and it makes it dry flat.
Yeah, and also makes it dry maybe never. And no, you can't do that. I used to actually use just little tin cans. I never throw tin cans away. But then I got to using these, I got to smoking Thematic cigarettes because they come in a little cardboard box, which is perfect. And that way you've got one bad thing, you're getting a good thing out of it by using the little boxes. And I used to get a lot of people to save the little boxes for me because they liked the idea that they were something useful, not just get it thrown away. My dad, was a master at taking anything and folding it up, making a little paint-proof box. I never learned how to do that.
I've seen old-timers do that.
Yeah. He'd just take a piece of paper and he'd be doing something else and he'd fold one of these things up like that and he had this little cup. Yeah. And I never learned how to do that.
Izzy showed me that. I couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, Izzy would be one that would do. Sure, he would have been in the same era that did that.
Okay, well, let's get some paint and paint us up a sign.
Yeah, well, let's get on the palette first, because this is where we got to say something, because it's where it's at. It's where it's at. I think this yellow will be okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's bulletin. That's bulletin. Gotta get some turpentine.
Oh, I see.
You got any orders going? Is the sound thing working right now?
Yeah. Oh, no, not for fixes.
Well, I wanted to point out, that
Let's put it
everybody says, oh, that's a cheaper way of doing it.
very close.
Good. Look at this one. Look how long that is.
That's been an oil how long?
Well, this is a club to me right yet, but I mean for Bultacos.
Bultaco touch-up paint?
Huh?
Bultaco touch-up paint?
No, he used to, so he went over to Spain, you know, to kind of, you know, talk to him about, you know, different, you know, ideas that would make the bike sell better here. So anyway, he brought me back to the striping brushes that they use in the factory at Bultaco. That's what they use.
Pull that down on me.
That's what they use in Spain for a striping brush. And they manage.
These are from the Bultaco factory, Doug?
Yeah, that's from the Bultaco factory.
Those hairs are all straight on the end.
Yeah, there's no sword to it.
They're horse hairs, aren't they?
There's no sword to it.
Doesn't it look like horse hair?
Boy.
Maybe that really is camel hair. Now, this is a hiller in there going. There's no more hillers. Okay, are we running?
Yep. What did you want to say about the turpentine?
Oh, yeah, right. Now, this is one shot, is what this is in here. I just put it in little jars because it's easier than popping the lids off and on the others. But one shot, you use turpentine for your thinner. Don't use anything else. Turpentine's expensive as hell, but it still works so much better. It's worth it. It's worth it. Because it works so much better than any kind of so-called synthetics. You use a natural material. And this is where the whole damn thing is as far as the striping is concerned. Now, generally, when you get the one shot right out of the can, it's usually all right. Just about right the way it is. Well, what do you want to do? And what kind of close-up capability you got there?
I got just your hand in
Okay, this is something a lot of people don't see because I do it real fast. You lay that brush down, you also turn it over. You turn it over, eh? If I do it fast, people don't notice I'm turning it over. You still both sides of the brush. Now you have to work this little gob of paint up. Now, like this is from a new can here. So this is, and it's cold weather right now, so this is pretty fluid. So what you do is you palette it until you start feeling a drag in here. You have to feel a little resistance in this paint. So it starts having a drag. And that's the whole principle of the striping brush. This is why it's so long and wobbly, is because it works like a rudder. So that, but you gotta have the drag or it won't work like a rudder. So this is still not tacking up because it's so cold today. But you keep paleting until you feel this drag in the paint. You feel a certain amount of drag there. Then you're ready. Then you want to go directly onto your line that you maybe want to make or something, see? Then the rudder action of the brush is what makes it work. See, there's a scratch right there. See, that's one of these circular grinder marks. See, now there's one over here, but there ain't a grinder mark. See, so you make another one. Now that grinder mark is gone. So then maybe you got one over here. See, so you do this, and do this. Well, now we're rid of that grinder mark. So that's where all that stuff happened from. But this is where it all is, right here. And there's no way that we can transmit this other than that you feel this little drag to it. And right now,
how many?
See, it's cold right now, so it's a perfect time for striping because you can get the paint right. See, by now,
but you're on the palette just as much as you are on the design.
I'm on the palette more. I'm on it all the time, constantly. Now I know a guy that palettes on his finger. And he walks around a car and does that. He keeps a gob on the end of his finger like that, and he palettes on the end of his finger.
Is the guy's initials BDR?
Huh?
Is the guy's initial BDR?
No, it's a guy by the name of Tweety.
Oh.
And where I usually drag my palette around with me. Well, see this, all that. Now we got the more, see, so that maybe you want to try to make the stuff, at least I always did, I want to try to put it all straight line. This is the easiest thing to do because we're looking directly down on it. Yeah, this is the easiest place to get control. Now, if you want to make a curve, now watch, see if you can spot the handle there. So you start there with that handle down there, now we're going to make a curve. Now what you do, you rotate the brush. Now watch the handle on the brush as it's rotating. See? And by the time I got around here, that's was wound completely round.
Yeah.
And some people can make right corners better than left corners. And just kind of depends. See, watch that handle now. Now, the way this works is the tighter the curve, the more you wind it up. Then you gotta come down and touch off the little, make the points nice and sharp. This paper is not the best thing to stripe on, but it works out pretty nice for this.
Now that's a hiller?
This is a hiller. There are no more hillers. We're all over. Why Mac can't copy that brush, I don't know. Because that's it. That's it. I'm dead. These are gone, and so it's all over. I can't fight the new brushes. I've tried it. I cannot work with them. They're just clubs.
Maybe we'll have to send Mac a brush and see if they can imitate it.
Even if they just imitate the hair. Of course, the handle on theirs is all cockeyed. It don't even come out the middle of the brush.
Yeah.
Now, back to this, there just cannot be too much emphasis on the palette. That's where it all lives. All here. I could take somebody that had the basic skill, right, handling their hands and their body and everything, and I could hand them this brush and they could work it.
Once you paleted it.
I could hand it to them and they could probably draw a damn good line with it. But there's no way to transmit that knowledge except practice.
I think by watching this, they can get the idea, too.
Well, I think so, too. At least we pointed out the feel of the drag and everything, which is important, because if you don't have the drag, then the brush doesn't have the rudder action, which is what makes a striping brush work. Now, when you're working on a side of something, which is what, in all reality, you're always going to be doing, demonstrate that good. We got to have something else to demonstrate. Something over here.
Look at that paper on the can there.
Well, there's so much busy going on there. Am I in the way of this? I think I really am.
I think what I'll do is I'll shift the camera.
Yeah. You know, it took me about a month, actually, to get back in shape. You know.
It takes a while.
You've got to do it every day. You've got to do it every day. If you don't do it every day, you lose it. You lose it. I think it's very much like in music. A musician has to rehearse every day. If he misses a day, you got to pick it up somehow. And I don't think you do. You've got to practice every day. If you lose a day, you've lost some of it. When I used to do a lot of cars, the third car would be the best car. I used to do 3 cars a day. The third car would be the best. And that would be better than the one the day after. The practice, it's that critical.
I know when I put it
and also you got to be your own. You got to be your own worst critic. You got to be your own worst critic. Now, this is always kind of easy, you know, just going this way because everything's aiming downhill. Now, when you have to work on, or say here, something vertical like this is easy, but that ain't what you're going to be called on to do. Most of the time you're going to be called on to make horizontal lines like this. Now, you've got the sag in the brush to contend with here, see? So, the downhills are easy. And the curves, I always like to start and go uphill. Because the gravity seems to keep the brush in better order doing that. Keeps it working. But most of the time, what you're going to be called on to do, as far as striping a car is concerned, you're not going to be able to get that car in a convenient position. So you're going to have to be able to also get your body in all sorts of crazy shapes. Now, I figure that what helps a lot of times, I didn't used to do this, But is to lay a piece of tape down and then use your eye on the edge of the tape. But see, mostly what you're going to do is you're going to be making lines this way. Now there's a sag in the brush. It means you got to get your hand under that sag, see? So the brush you can see is actually aiming uphill. But the rudder action of the brush, which is the reason they're built the way they are, see, it'll straighten itself out. See, at this point, I can't even see this because my eyes have gone sour. I don't even see this. It's just feel for me now. But you're not going to be able to get something on a car in an easy way. You're going to have to put your body in the easy ways. And the other idea is to try to put in your mind the idea of making the line in one stroke. So if you are working on a car, you've got to make an 8-foot line down the side of this thing. The thing to do is get your body, you have to start out with your body as far as you can this way, and then bring it all down, and then get this way, and that's about it, usually as far as you can get. So you can draw maybe an 8-foot line without stopping. Because if you stop, it's so hard to pick the line back up again. And to have it on the same plane. So it's the bodying this thing. And this is why I suggest, see, I started out with this two-handed technique because I didn't know any better, right? And my dad, when he painted small signs, he always used both hands. So I figured that's the way everyone does it. So I started using both hands. Now, there are a couple of the stripers that were around before me, but I had never met any of them or watched them or seen them work. They used one-handed technique. Like Tommy the Greek up in the Oakland area and Art Summers over in Santa Monica. Both used one hand. And when it comes down to precision, there was never anybody any better, especially Tommy the Greek. He squats down next to it. He does like this, and you never see this other hand anywhere. He palettes his brush, and he just squats down like this, and he goes whoosh right around a wheel in one stroke. And that son of a bitch is perfect. Now, I would see that if you wanted to make one of these 8-foot lines, you'd be a whole lot better reaching like this, see, and pulling that line. But because of not knowing that, I did this reaching out with both hands, which I think is a bad way to begin. I think it's better to begin with the one hand and use my method. I think mine may be better for doing this kind of stuff. Yeah. This little kind of stuff like this, I think the two-handed thing gives you better control. But when you reach out a long distance, this puts you in a bind, unless you got real long arms, and I ain't got them. Hey? See, I do this paletting as a matter of habit. In other words, while I'm standing here talking with you, if I ain't painting, if I'm not striping, I'm still doing this. See, this is always keeping that right.
Well, you never use any kind of guidelines for those little designs, do you?
No, never. Never. And that's another thing that you can't transmit it. You could make a pounce pattern, I suppose. Like if I was going to do a sign on a truck and the guy was a real fussy guy, I'd make a pounce pattern so I could make it pretty close on the other, make it close on the other side. Other than that, I never do. I just go over the other side and do it. Well, someone has asked me, he says, well, how do you learn to do that? I didn't learn how to do that. That's just, it's a thing that you're born with. And is to have them kind of eyes. And like on a sign, when I see a sign, say on a truck or anything like that, and we talk to copy, I look at it, I see it, it's there. I can see the sign right on the door. It's because I can visualize it. And many people can do that, but many people can't, so they've got to figure on making a pattern. So you make a pounce pattern. And
or sketch it on.
Huh?
Or sketch it on.
Yeah. And because people seem to think that the idea of being able to go over and duplicate the thing on the other side, they take great importance over that. They worry about that more than anything. And so if you can develop doing that, it dazzles the hell out of them, right? Just to go over and do the other thing again. Okay? But they will be very critical of that. They'll spot it, and they'll walk back and forth, checking out, making sure that it's the same on the other side. That's very important to most people. It isn't to me, but it's... But the ability to develop the ability to be able to do it is important to me, or was. I mean, that I like. But as far as it being really important, I don't think it's very important. But most people do make a great big thing out of things being symmetrical. They think that's what it's all about.
Well, how can these kids now, when they start doing this, how can they develop the attitude of making them all different instead of all the same? I notice a lot of kids send them in with the same design they do on everything. You know? What do you tell yourself in your head to make it all different?
Well, actually, I go by where the design is at on the car. Now, to me, if the design is on the side of the car, the shape of the design is going frontwards. Now, if there's, like, say, a door handle, or, say, a radio aerial, or some sort of thing protruding from the car, the thing that I put around that, to me, represents a wake of that thing itself moving forward down the side of the car, and the design is a wake.
But you never put the same thing on anything.
No, there's lots of different ways of making a wake. Okay? Well, the same thing, like you wouldn't get the same wake of the boat flowing through water. You look at the wake, different speed, different hulls, but it's really the same.
Yeah, I see.
And so the design that's on the front of the car is supposed to be coming right at you. The design that's on the back of the car is supposed to be going away from you. And the designs that are on the side are going to the front. And when that isn't done with that thought in mind, people think something's the matter with it, but they can't point it out. Something's wrong. What is it?
Yeah.
That's what's wrong. This design's going the wrong way. It's like an arrow that somebody put in the bow backwards. Right? There's something the matter. You know that the arrowhead is on the front, right? It ain't somewhere else on an arrow, right? It's the same idea. And also that a car is a machine. So since it's a machine, the design stuff wants to be like a machine, or like a machine made it.
Okay, what about the non-mechanical people who are getting into this, like the girls and the kids that have no appreciation for a hot rod? They haven't had a chance to grow up around it.
Well,
you just have to develop to what you say, right?
Yeah.
Develop to that.
Yeah. Think about that motion all the time, and the fact that on a car, everything's going to the front, same like a motorcycle.
And never make it the same.
No, you don't need, but it has to have the weight. The weight of the design always has to be correct. It's always the arrowhead. The form of motion. Like, you don't see a tree except for there's a freak tree in Africa that grows upside down. You never see a tree grow up and get bigger on the top. That's because they don't work right that way. If you really want to study, I think, some design form today, look at the modern airplanes, because they're the most beautiful things that man ever created. Because they're functional. They have to be shaped that way to go through the air the way they do. They ain't shaped that way to be pretty. They're shaped that way because that works.
Okay, so
and that's why they're so beautiful.
All your designs represent things then?
Motion.
If I said the word elephant to you, could you design a...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'd work an elephant into it. Yeah. Yeah, we'd work an elephant into it. Most of my designs end up looking like crabs for some reason or other. But see, always to the idea now, like on a thing like this. Say this is the front of the car. All right, so it's the front of the car. Well, see, we wouldn't, if we were working on the front of the car, I'll give a little demonstration here on that little different we say the front. On just something, you know, kind of simple like this. Of course, you realize there was one psychiatrist that thought all my stuff was Cubist porno, but the...
And you didn't know it either, huh?
No. I says, going in what direction? And he told me, I said, well, I'm glad it wasn't the other. Okay, moving here now. All right. Get back to the arrowhead idea, which I was stressing there. Here, obviously that's going up and this is going down, right?
Yeah.
It's quite obvious to anybody that that is going that way and this is going that way. So that don't want to be in the front of the car because it's going down.
Right, right.
Now, if you make it, and this is all right to go up on the front a little bit like that because that's essentially still kind of coming at you. But once this is established, this is going down. Once it's established, everything from there is going down. Okay, so, I mean, you want to just throw in pretty much the same little gizmos on it or something. But we do the same thing on this. Still going down and that's still going up.
Yeah.
Although those are the same. Or this one, if you did that on the side of the car, that's got to be aiming towards the front. Don't want to be aiming towards the back. That's the basic form that I think of all the time in the design shapes is the flow, the direction they're going. I might also, and I can't help but say it because it's in my goddamn mind, that this swirly thing now that's going on,
yeah,
I think that's all right for maybe circus wagons or maybe vans, which how many different ways can a box be going? A van is an impossible thing to deal with because it has no directional foundation of its own. How many different ways can you make a box go? I think the swirls are a cop-out. I really do. I want to see a guy stripe, then do the swirls, or do the swirls and then stripe. I just don't. To me, they don't. I don't think they're for cars. I think that's for something else.
Trucks.
I don't even think it's for trucks.
No.
Because of all the vehicles in the world, a truck is was supposed to be a practical vehicle.
Yeah.
So maybe you don't need any striping at all, right? But if it does, it should be more like machinery striping. I think the swirl thing belongs somewhere else. I'm not sure where. I mean, interior decorating maybe. Something that would be on maybe a safe or a cabinet, or it'd be nice in a kitchen cabinet, something like that. Somehow or other, I just don't see that on cars. I think it's a cop-out. I do. I think it's a cop-out. They just haven't, because who's going to know whether it's right or wrong? Right?
How can you change that idea into an elephant now? Either one of those.
Yeah? You always work these into different people. If we went on uphill or downhill. In other words, we can make a little curve right in here. Develop. helping.
Yeah, well, of course, see, you see about the same kind of things I do. Be in this kind of business, never be worried about getting paint all over you. Ballerina elephant. Huh? And all we need to do is just put a little spot right here. Well, just a couple of things like that. Everybody sees there's an elephant in there. Thing is to put things in people don't notice right away, right? When they get home, then they, oh, look at that! Look at this guy put in my car. Shut it off. I gotta go get my order. That was to kill you. Yeah, that's Daddy's box. He made that in 1919.
No kidding, your dad's?
My dad made that box in 1919. Of course, I mean, it's been repainted 1,000 times since then.
Yeah. Didn't the old timers used to use that as a chair too?
Yeah. That's his box, and he made that in 1919, and he used that until 1952. That was his kit. And many of the brushes that are in it are the same brushes.
But Dutch, what did your dad think about these flying eyeballs?
My dad thought I was crazy. He always thought I was crazy. My dad used to complain, you know Izzy.
Yeah.
My dad used to always complain to Izzy. They'd be working together and he'd say, my son is crazy.
I've had other sign painters tell me that.
Yeah, right.
Swinging around.
I don't know what the eyeball means.
Oh, it's striped there on all sides.
He didn't do that. I put that in there. But
That's all right. I don't know your real name anyway.
Turn around, let's get a square on it. That's it. Now once it open it up. How do you arrange your brushes in there?
Well, I got a little... You know, the striping brushes are so damn critical. See, I make a little thing with holes in it that sits here, that you can stick them all in there. So when it gets jarred around, they don't move.
You got a hole in the bottom?
There's a hole in the box down here. All the handles fit in. They gotta be just right, or you might as well throw them away.
How old are your brushes in there, Dutch?
These are not very old, actually, because this is the last of the Hillers, and then there's a Grumbacher and a Mac and a mother. There's one of those funny. This brush that came out of England for a while.
The big one on the end?
Yeah. And it's a big club.
What happens when you bend the hair on one of those brushes?
They take a set, the same thing what makes like a permanent wave or something.
Well, how do you get rid of it?
We do it all over again with the water. Wash it out with the water and the soap and everything, and let that brush hang straight, its own weight. Because that's the natural shape, the way the hair is plucked out of the brush. And that's when they work good, is when they're in their natural shape. So I think these things that Mac been making a long time, you know, is what they used to call broadliners, where you lay the brush flat and make a half-inch line. They're not stripers, they're broadliners. Because it used to be in the old days, you know, when they striped carriages and cars and stuff, the broadliner did his job, and then further on down the line, the stripers put one on each side of that. The broadliner was a specialty, I think. That's all he did was make the thick lines. Then another guy's made the thin lines. Imagine what it must have been like at one time in an automotive situation of how, most extent, I think, stripers are a little cuckoo. I think you have to be able to concentrate that hard. Imagine having a whole factory full of them guys trying to get control over them. No wonder they were happy when the chrome strip came along. Right? Oh, God, we're rid of them guys. When the quills, of course, just lay them in there flat. But make sure they got to be all in there too, because if they get crinkled up, throw it away. No good.
What kind of oil you use?
Motor oil. For years and years, everybody used lard oil, including me. And you know what we found out?
What?
It was a scheme. It rots them. They sell you lard oil where they sell you the brushes. Right?
That's right.
It rots them. No, motor oil. Order motor oil. Can't beat it. Look how long it was in the ground and never dried up. I remember one time we had a bunch of old big 55-gallon drums full of oil that we got in some deal. And this friend of mine's going to throw it away. And I says, what are you going to throw it away for? He says, oil's old. It's no good. This oil doesn't get old. Gets contaminated, but it don't get old.
There's guys that reclaim oil.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the best there is, although they usually have goons that go out and assassinate these guys or something that are pushing the reclaimed oil. Yeah. Then you have one junk box, you just throw a junk in. Now,
what's in there?
These are the long quills. Oh, here's one of them limey brushes.
What is that?
The English striper. It's a broadliner.
What's the brand name on that one? That's not squirrel hair either, is it?
It's not a fine grade. I think squirrels probably vary throughout the world.
Oh, they definitely do.
Right. So, I mean, the Hillers are made out of Bavarian squirrel hair, right? Maybe there's difference.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
The colder it gets, the longer the hair gets.
Now, you know, on a broad line, this is what I use, these long quills.
For your sign work?
Yeah. Or broad line on motorcycle fenders, like on the original Harleys and stuff, where they got the one great big line about a half-inch wide. This is what I use for them. These work super for that. And these are available. These long quills. This ain't a Nashville. That's a synthetic. Yeah, great long quills. You can get these in all different, you can get them in real fine ones. And actually, if worse comes to worse, you can get by with one of these almost as a striper. If the lines ain't too long. Supposing you wanted to stripe something like, say, a square box. This would work fine for that. Where the lines would only be maybe 8 inches long or something like that.
Is that what most people call a French liner?
I just always call them long quills.
And then what about those little boxes in the middle there? What's he good to get?
Well, that's where he always kept his chalk and his X-Acto knives and his that's where he kept all his stuff. He had all his X-Acto knives. He got one little trick knife here. He used this for gold leaf trimming. And it holds a little, beautiful little knife. You put a piece of razor blade in it.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to use that to trim the letters off in gold leaf. See, to make the bottoms real square? On the glass. And glass gold leaf work. He just stroked clear through the layout. Okay? Then come over later with this and go zip, 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 zip.
Okay.
And scrape it off the glass after it was set.
Then he put his outline on. That way the bottoms are all just absolutely square. And the tops, that's how he did it. Working on the glass. Then they use a bunch of industrial knives and stuff like that. Here's a new knife they got out that's really neat. You just push it out and bust a piece off it off. Have you seen these? These are really neat. This one's used up. You just push it out there, and this way you got a whole thing that's full of blades. And you just bust it off, and you got a new blade. Trick.
You want to do a sign?
You know, I had a hellacious hard time learning gold leaf. And
Did he teach it to you?
no, again, he would always say, you'll learn it, you'll learn it, you'll learn it. The only thing he ever said to me, but it did help, he says, did you get all the lard oil out of your brush? He says, you got to get it all out.
It keeps it
If you mix the lard oil in what gets in the size, it does the size in. You got to have a clean brush. And you know something, I wasn't doing it. I wasn't cleaning all the oil out of the brush because you really don't need to. Gold leaf, you do. It took me about 5 years, you know, just to do a passable job. I was so frustrated I was going crazy. And now they don't make the size anymore that I used.
Well, the gelatin size?
No, I never got on that glass good at all. You mix every batch up at a heat. My dad had a little thing he carried with canned heat. Little stove he unfolded. And a can heat in the bottom of it, a little cup in the top, and he'd throw the gelatin capsules in it, right, and heat that up, and he made it up right on the spot when he used it through the rest of the way. And there was no way to get a formula. How many of the capsules he used? I don't know. He just, right. And, but the, you know, another paint, you know, we were talking about where the hell can you get things that when you're in an area.
You flip that brush over too when you...
Same thing. Yeah, see, I just do it fast. You don't know, most people don't notice it. Yeah. Now, another paint that you can get by with, you know, if nothing else is, if any of the one-shot or some of the other stuff, if you can't find any of it, or the Ronins or some of them, is Rust-Oleum. Rust-Oleum works beautiful for striping. It's very slow drying though, so it isn't something that comes out of the shop in the same day. It takes a whole day to dry, but it works for me. I know some guys that use, well, Slimbo uses Rust-Oleum all the time, so they ever use it. Yeah. He loved it.
Well, it's dense, I know that. There's a lot of pigment in it.
Yeah. Got fish oil in it, see, that's why it don't rust. You never seen a rusty fish, did you? Now, one of the things that, I don't know if it'll work on this paper or not. Let's try it. Let's see. All on that palette to me. But I sometimes found that I didn't like the idea of getting rid of the damn guidelines. So, you know, after the job was done.
Yeah.
And we used to use, you know, Scotch tape, but it got to where the damn Scotch tape is, but also, you didn't know how well somebody had prepared their paint job. And, you know, you put the Scotch tape on it and it tears the paint job off, you know, just what you wanted. Oh, disaster. Then what do you do? So this is one new thing, finally, that's good. This fine line. I love it. And so I use it a lot for, I don't know what it'll do with this paper, but we shall see. It's got just enough tack to kind of tack. It doesn't stick so super good.
put up there?
I mean, what did I see when I looked there?
Yeah.
Help.
So,
Just what popped into my head. Now, then, tape is a great time saver.
about centering it or anything?
What?
That word.
No, I see it there. But there's other little tricks. There's other little tricks. No, I never think about that. I'll show you why if it don't work out. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it don't. This particular brush, which is one of my favorites, is actually that old.
It's now available at the Pinstriping. Just saying.
How old? That's one of your dad's?
One of my dad's brushes. Figure he died in 52. Fell off a ladder.
He fell off a ladder?
Fell off a ladder.
Remember the leisurely lunch and a 25-cent martini? If you lunch at the Lobster restaurant any Monday through Friday, you'll find those good old days are still going on. Choose marvelous fresh seafood, perhaps a great sandwich or salad. We'll serve it up with a sparkling view of the harbor and add an icy cold martini for just 25 cents more. More of what you want at the Lobster Trap Restaurant. And
Say, see, the tape is a great sign. Great time. Oh, I love it. I love it. It's finally a new product that helps.
In your dad's time, they didn't have that much that kind of help, though, did they?
No, my dad used the Scotch tape a lot, though. Yeah, when it, he always liked it, but he did something that he went back and touched up the tops of all his S's and O's and stuff like that. Okay, now suppose, see, we're not in the middle, right?
Yeah.
So, big deal. And of course, this is tearing this off this paper, but this gives us the idea of the use of the tape. And that, they save a tremendous amount of time, you know, on the thing now. Okay, so you see it there. Uh-oh, something's the matter here. Well, now, especially if we happen to use the word help. A little trip, and it just heals the whole thing up, right? In the middle now, right? What's known as faking it. That's how you fake it. That gets it in the middle. And so it clear off the line, too. Make this bigger. So you get the tape off and make it bigger. Boom. Then that gets her in the middle. In the middle, it's...
What kind of tape is that, my Dutch?
This is called Fine Line. Yeah, it's new. It's neat stuff. I love it. Comes in every thickness you want, and if you work on glass, I use Scotch tape. You know, doing a glass sign from the inside, I use the tape. Use Scotch tape. Works dandy. Sure saves the time. Now what? See, what a lot of guys, when they use the tape, it's hard to make a decent O.
We're an S. There's just something the matter with it. With them. They, I can do this quicker. Well, like you say, you're making a hole. Well, if you really concentrate on it and don't go through the, you know, you always want to try to do that area and you want to stroke if you possibly can. But the, like say you make an S, all right, we'll make an S, just a square one. Well, then what happens is you get this, you get this flat place, see? So you want to come back later. And even though this makes the S is slightly higher and the O's slightly higher as the other letters, it looks right in the mind. They should be a little higher. Just a hair. S's and O's. And
They look better optically.
yeah.
Especially in the block letter.
And of course you get then they get in you know, this is kind of shit to keep away from. Don't mess with that stuff.
Why? Well, because you get hung up on it, and it's hard to read. And it's really easy to do, and it fools everybody. They think it's hard to do.
Where would a guy develop an alphabet like that?
This?
Yeah.
You can get one out of most of the old books. A single stroke thing like that. It's a modification of text.
What about your script? You never got that out of a book.
My script I did originally. I can do the legit script. Now I can break the rules.
Oh, I see. Do one of your
I modified it for speed. And also probably just some natural rebellion. I knew this stuff would come in handy for something.
Did you used to draw the guidelines when you first started?
Yeah.
Charcoal? Chalk?
Yeah. I used
Hard to get off, I know that.
Yeah, that's the part that always got me. It's so dang hard to. I use a, Stabilo pencil now.
Yeah.
Because after it's dry, you spit on it. Well, I take Stabilo right off. It's a natural solvent for it. Just like bugs on your windshield. Best thing to take bugs off your windshield, spit on it. Take it right off. Yeah. It's the same stuff.
What kind of spit you got?
Huh?
What kind of spit you got?
Well, it comes from an animal, right? Them are dead bugs, right? We're creatures.
That's true.
So it's a solvent. Best thing in the world for taking off bugs. some sort of science fiction monster? I don't think a squirrel, that was one of them things that came out of science fiction or something. The squirrels are after us. There they are. Yeah, I like to get in it once in a while early on and just kind of bust into doing this on the S's. Even though it's out of a different form and everything. You know, the sign shop that my dad and me worked at for a long time, we used to do a lot of the this Hebrew lettering for delicatessens and stuff like that. We never knew what it said, but we used to, you know, copy it off of a thing, and that's neat stuff. You can really whip that out in a hurry. In fact, I think this type of thing might be derived from it. Yeah. It's all strokes like that. The whole thing, the whole alphabet is all made out of, in that Hebrew, is all made out of these single strokes like that. The whole thing's made that out of. I think it's a beautiful form. I wish I could read it. I have no idea what it says. I understand, so it also reads the other direction.
I think it reads backwards, yeah.
Yeah, but I wouldn't know. But we used to just copy it. And, we got to where we could really whip it out. I think this is kind of what that's from.
Talk about layout for a minute. If you get a guy that wants steak and eggs, $1.99, do you just whip it out, or you just lay it on there with some kind of pencil or anything? What do you do? How do you
Hardly ever.
You just think it out first.
I just look at it and that's where it's going to go and do it. And if it don't work out, I use a little fakery to get around that.
Well, let's say you had a guy come in who wants steak and eggs, $1.99.
Yeah.
How would you go about doing it? How would you pick the style of letter for the steak and the eggs? Is it the experience that tells you the style?
Well, certain forms, certain letter forms have emphasis for certain things. Well, that was only like a steak and eggs. Well, see, that's that R again right there.
Uh-huh. hardest word too, is double G.
Now, we want this particular type S to live in here, I think. Also, we can use this little trick over here to balance things up with it, if that's, you know, becoming critical. Now, what are we going to charge the guy for the steak and eggs?
$1.99.
$1.99. Like a little curve right in there.
Yeah.
Oh, there's somebody for me here. Or you wouldn't be blowing me more so constantly. So I tell everybody that's a quick way of getting rid of that stuff.
Ladybug Rio is now featuring the holiday line and textured knit sportswear by Beretta California. Colors of poppy, winter, white, and blue. Opening your outfit with Beretta California. Just relaxing at home.
Now, this, you know, you know, this is basically out of Martin's.
You think so?
Oh yeah, that influenced me more than anyway. That guy just blew me away. The main layout, the weight of everything. Because you do have to think about the weight of letters.
What if a guy's starting out? How's he going to come up with that kind of balance? Is he going to sketch it on there with a pencil, or is he going to...
That's the way you can do.
Yeah.
Why don't you step up there now?
That steak and eggs for $1.99 with runs in it. So you get for going so fast. And if you do it, you get the runs in it like that.
Don't worry, the eggs are running.
That's why a lot of letters end up with shadows and things on them.
Kind of the run?
Well, yeah, you come over, oh, got some runs, we'll put a shadow on it, take care of that. There's always a way of faking it. Always a way of faking it. You know what I find it works real good though actually with it? You throw them all in a blender. Throw the whole thing in a blender.
What?
The eggs and the steaks and the whole thing. Put the whole thing in a blender and grind it all up, right? Then fry it.
Right?
Yeah, it's great.
In a flour tortilla.
It's super. Yeah. Ends up that way anyway. Brown? All ends up brown. Right? You take every color of paint in this building and pour it all into one can and stir it up and you will get brown. That's what you get. That explains a lot of things.
What about these guys who are out in the toolies that can't get all these fancy thinners? What do they use in an emergency?
You can get by with gasoline, especially this unleaded gas ain't bad. It's not too shabby.
No?
You can get by with it, any of your synthetic paints, you know, that are made up from petroleum paint, or even your natural stuff, like One Shot's a natural paint. It's made out of tree sap. It's the genuine article. Where all your synthetic paints are made of petroleum derivatives, you can get by with the white gas if you have to. And in fact, we used to use at the sign shop, there was a time when gasoline was cheaper than thinner.
Yeah, right.
And we used to use gas. But we couldn't use the gas with a red dye in it in white. See, it didn't work. You ended up with pink. Now they don't have the red dye in the gasoline anymore. So you can get by with it.
Tetraethylene they put in.
Yeah, well, no, it's a red dye, and the reason they put the dye in it is so that they can identify it in the refinery. That's the only reason it's there. They know which is coming through which pipe because of which color it is. That's why the dye is in the gasoline. Normally, it's colorless.
We use unleaded gasoline and acrylic enamel works great.
Yeah. Sure.
It was by accident, but it works. Huh? Yeah.
Lacquer, of course, is another story altogether. And you got a lacquer is lacquer. It's a different material.
Where does the banana oil come from in case a guy wants to retard some lacquer?
Drugstore.
Drugstores have it?
Yeah, pharmacies usually have it. They use it in some as like a binder or a thing like that in some sort of prescriptions and
Do
things.
you use a lot of it or just a drop?
No, just a tiny bit of the banana oil, and it's a super. In fact, you can mix the banana oil in with lacquer in a spray gun and spray leather with it and make it any color leather you want. And you know that all of your leather that's used in cars, that's what's on them. That's what color is on them, is lacquer. Retarded lacquer. The banana oil also causes the lacquer never to get real brittle hard, although it eventually does, after, 5-6 years or something. But, so leather upholstery in cars, that's painted on there.
Well, now one shot's lead
One
based.
shot is a varnish, a natural varnish.
That's lead based.
And yeah, the white's lead based, so you don't want to eat it.
Okay.
Right, but then again, look at all the stuff we got directions on. You're not supposed to eat anything. All the things we used to eat are now bad for you. And milk and eggs and all this kind of thing. Now they're bad for you. Right?
But the Rust-Oleum, what did you say?
Rust-Oleum works good for striping.
good.
Yeah, it works real nice.
Is that lead
Except
based?
it takes forever to dry. No, it's fish.
Fish?
Oh, the pigment? I have no idea. Probably lead. Most white is lead.
And a guy should be able to pick Rust-Oleum up in any big city.
Yeah, Rust-Oleum's pretty common.
Doesn't that usually come too thin in the can already?
Yeah, but you can let it dry in the pallet.
Oh, okay.
You ever open up?
Get out of the can and pallet until it starts getting a drag in it. It takes a little longer.
What's some of your
A
favorite?
hot day, Rust-Oleum is really the greatest thing in the world to use. A real hot day, because everything else at one shot's all drying too fast.
Yeah.
The Rust-Oleum is perfect in hot weather. A lot of guys are using it.
What about color combinations? You use black and yellow on this to make it show up. How do you choose your colors? You see them when you look at the sign too?
Well, I think that the color combination, thing like that, the choice of color combination, I think it's a kind of a racial thing. I really do. You'll get various countries, they seem to like certain colors more than others. And the rule, generally, in American sign painting has always been never to use direct opposites. And we've pretty much hung on to that.
What's the opposite?
Like, say, green and red, they're opposite. You never use green and red at the same time. Never. Not done in American way of thinking. But say in Italy, there'll always be red and green. Or yellow and green. Blech. You know, I mean, see, because there again is your opposite. And the way you can find out which is the opposite, if you don't know, is stare at it for a real long time. Any color, then do this, and blank off all light, and you will see the opposite colors right in your head.
You never use them together.
American idea is never to use them together. But if you look at color combination that comes from different parts of the world, they have different feelings about it.
Well, when you started out with your Reaver sign up there, what did you start out with? Did you know you were going to use white and gray on those top letters?
Yeah, because I wanted to make one of them convex letters.
And that's what you saw? Did you know the rest of the colors when you started out with it?
Well, see, there's no opposites.
I mean, did you know that you were going to use white on the body copy on the bottom?
Probably not until I got to it.
Okay, so you have no...
But I wouldn't use the opposite.
You have no clearly defined color that you have in mind when you start to sign them, do you?
other than not using opposites.
Okay.
On the same sign.
Now, when you get all done with the sign, you stand back and look at it and say, what am I missing here?
Yeah. Yeah, I
you
criticize it very heavily. And usually I'll look at it the next day and it's terrible and I'll throw it away. I got a sign downstairs that I did. It is so bad that I have tried and tried to get them to throw it away, and they won't do it. It's the worst sign I ever made.
But to yourself, it looks bad.
It's awful. It's the worst thing I ever made. I say, throw it away. Please get rid of it. Every time I come in here, I look at this thing, and it makes me sick.
You think every painter feels that way about his sign?
I think if it cares to them, I think so.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
Can you pick out the mistakes on a Reaver sign?
Oh, yeah. Full of them. I spent too much time on it. I got it too busy. I started putting in funny little dots there in the Reavers, and I shouldn't have done that. Should have left it alone.
Now, how about the scroll on the bottom?
That little thing on the bottom?
Yeah.
That's a hider.
That's a hider?
That's a hider. There's something screwed up under there. I forget what the hell it was. But there's something, I think I put something there and I spelled it wrong or something. So I put that thing on here to cover it up. Yeah, that's just a fakery there. But mainly I wanted to make that convex letter. I've always liked that. And my dad was a damn master at that convex letter, and I never got as good as he did. Because he could make them letters that looked like they were carved right into things.
I've always had trouble darkening a yellow. What do you use to darken yellow with?
Black.
And it don't turn green on you?
No. Not show card stuff.
Yeah, what about that black gunpowder explosive? What is that, sign box or
That's
something?
one shot. Yeah, that's for my muzzle loader, and I keep it up there real high because I'm afraid of sparks getting near it or anything.
It's actually got gunpowder in it?
Yeah, it's got a little can of powder in there that I use for my muzzle loader. And so...
Is that exclamation point a cover up there too?
Yeah.
It is?
Sure.
Still in the space.
Well, the commercial trick.
So if a guy's starting to paint a sign, then he should start out with the basic idea and then worry about getting the last colors in at the last, right?
Well, you know, as far as the color thing is concerned, I've always personally felt that the color is not really as important as the workmanship. But American ideas have never used classy colors. And your most visible is yellow and black, period.
Okay, and now, if you think workmanship is the thing, do you have like one or two scripts that you use a lot, one or two block letters, or do you jump back and forth to 12, 13 styles?
Not all on the same sign.
How many styles on one sign?
You really shouldn't have but two at the most.
Two styles on one sign?
Yeah, I get away from it sometimes and end up with three, but you really shouldn't do that. I mean, the basic rule is to not get too many different letter styles on one sign. Two at the most. I'm not saying that I always do that, but that is, you know,
But a guy can get along if he practices like two alphabets, let's say two scripts and two block letters.
Yeah.
He can get along painting signs if he studies those two letters and practices.
Sure. You got to know the upper and lower, and you got to know where the and see, you can use the different letters for emphasis. Like here, we really want the price to be the most prominent thing on a show card. The price is number one. That's what people are after.
Is that right?
Yeah. They want to see the price, not the product.
We never use a lot of prices at knots, but I can see that. I see it all over town with the price on the market. It's always big.
Yeah, yeah. Clear back probably to Martin.
This Martin, when did he live about? In the 20s?
Yeah, early 20s. Yeah. Yeah.
Price has got to be there. If it's low enough, they're interested to find out what it is.
What's that?
You know?
Oh.
You got to have the price there. If it's low enough, you know, it's interesting to...
Boy, this dates us though, don't it?
Did you do this skull up here for a guy, or did you do it for your own self?
No, I just did it because I thought it would be. Years ago, we had a friend of mine had a cafe with a cigarette machine in it. He was a non-smoker, and so we made this up and put it up over his cigarette machine. Yeah, one he used to just say, smoke, 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 smoke. Cancer is good for you.
Smoking cures cancer.
That thing's been up there so long, so dusty, it almost looks real.
What about this Movie World sign up here?
That was a super brilliant red at one time, that show cardboard and all faded out.
But I mean, look at all the stuff you've done to the letters. You airbrushed the Movie World. That's a white, and you've airbrushed blue into the souvenirs and gifts. And you put little dots into the Prince Karma's garden. Why do you work on all your letters like that?
Well, I'll tell you what I was doing right there is that was when the new guy, Prevotel took over down there.
Yeah.
Well, he came up with that Movie World logo. That face there, I've never seen it anywhere before. And I didn't like it either. But that's what he wanted. And so all the Movie World stuff after Prevotel, that was the logo. Those weird looking W, the M I can live with. The W I think's terrible. And then he had this idea of Prince Karmi's garden. Yeah. And that was supposed to be like, one of them, like the character that the guy plays on television. You know, the Karmi's Magic, whatever. And they were going to make it like a restaurant in there, but it never happened. And so that was on the original Prince Karmi, who was an old vaudeville character. And that face was on his stuff.
But where do you think of?
Because that's what he wanted.
Little things to it. You think a guy ought to play with these letters and try out his own experiments?
Yeah.
Just do anything to them. Like on your boxer, you've outlined it in black and white, and then put a red around the whole.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to get the effect of it sinking into the box again. See, I was trying to get a third-dimensional idea. And
so there's no limit to what you can try.
No.
Okay.
But.
Okay.
I think a lot of times the shadow works better.
Stand over there and ask you this. What do you cut the show card with? Do you cut it with an X-Acto knife, or what do you do?
Well, I use an X-Acto knife, which I sharpen with 400 weather dry.
But do you lay that sign out first and do it?
What, the cut out?
Did you cut it out first?
No. No, I made the whole sign, then cut it out.
Make it first and cut it out.
I only got to doing that because you were doing it all the time down there before I was in the joint.
Now, where'd you get the picture for that guy in the middle? Did you see that when he started the sign?
Yeah, that's basically what I had in kind of mind, because that particular case, that this was pretty bizarre. I mean, this woman sold all these guys, all these people this idea in that car she was building, got all her money, and then disappeared.
Yeah.
And they went looking for her, and it wasn't her, it was a guy. And don't ask me why there's a little fish up there in the left corner. I have the vaguest notion.
I was going to ask you that, Dutch.
I don't know why there's
if that was a hider or whatever you call it.
I don't. See, that's how loose I let me go.
How long does it take you to do the neon letters, like the sculpture and glass sign?
That's fast.
Fast.
That's unbelievably fast. That's so fast that it's almost fraudulent. I go back and forth between the airbrush idea.
a lot, and I think probably one of the things, because, you know, I was always very influenced by what my father had to say about things. And he said, as far as airbrush was concerned, he says, everything that's done with an airbrush looks commercial.
That's true.
It's hard to do something with an airbrush that doesn't look commercial. Well, maybe you want it to look commercial, so then you use an airbrush. But he always, he never liked airbrush much. He says, oh, it looks too commercial. Now, what he meant by that, I don't know. But he was an artist.
You never used a airbrush, did he?
Oh, yeah, he played with them. They used to use it a lot on trucks for a while. There was a big heyday of doing airbrush, big signs on trucks with airbrush shadows, but only shadows, in the 20s.
How long does it take you to do that sculptured in glass sign?
How long?
Yeah.
Maximum an hour. You know, when you got everything sitting there right next to you. Because I got the plan of the airbrush over there in Movie World. And that was for the guy that had the glass shop in there.
You want to run over these bikes with me? That's what kind of bike you got going here?
That's a Scott.
Who makes that?
England, and they are a very old company, and they just never changed their design. They just kept the thing the same way year after year. And actually, the book on Scott's a real interesting. In fact, it's almost a tragedy.
His life story, you mean?
Yeah, the whole thing. He had all kinds of, and he completely lost interest in the motorcycles for a while and started making some crazy little three-wheel thing he called a sociable, which was like a sidecar with two people in the sidecar. It still had basically a motorcycle layout on the right side of it and a sidecar, but the sidecar was real big and the people sat in the sidecar.
What year would he have died?
He died, I think, somewhere around 1935 or something like that. But from pneumonia. But he always kept that design. There were so many people that liked it over in England that they bought the company out and continued to make the things, although they had nothing to do with the original company. And this one is actually a 47.
47?
But it's the same as a 25.
Now, what's the deal with the coolers?
It's a liquid-cooled engine. It's a 600cc water-cooled two-stroke, and it also has an auto-lube like everybody's talking about now, where you don't have to mix your oil and gas together. That takes care of it all by itself. That was in 25. Nothing new.
That's a two-stroke bike.
The two-stroke? In fact, the only way you could explain the Scott engine to anyone is you'd have to take it apart in front of them. If you look at the engine design on paper, it's completely unlike any other gasoline engine. Completely unlike any other gasoline engine made.
They make them today yet in England?
That you can still get one on special order. There's a guy by the name of Silk over in England that makes them. But you got to go over and buddy with him for a while and make sure that he likes you and the whole thing, and then he'll whip you up a Scott.
What's the bike next to it?
That's a Swiss military motorcycle. They were never marketed as a civilian bike at all. It purely was military. And it's kind of crazy. It's like a Swiss Army knife. It's got a lot of blades.
Yeah.
This thing's got 8 speeds.
Does?
Yeah. And it's all very practical.
Show them the map holder.
Easy to, oh yeah, the map holder and everything. It's full of trick stuff. It also comes with a standard stock with a 9-foot piece of rope. Now, we don't know what they're trying to tell us about the 9-foot piece of rope. If you're supposed to tow someone else, or that's to tow you. I mean, but it comes as part of the original equipment. It's a 9-foot piece of rope, beautifully braided on both ends. The standard equipment, this piece of rope.
That's for the military?
Yeah, Swiss military.
Is there a place to carry the guns?
Yeah, it had holsters on it, too.
Are you going to recondition?
Yeah, I'm going to fix that up. Yeah, I approve of a lot of the design. It's only got one flaw in it, really. It handles terrible.
No.
And I was talking to Bud about that, about how bad the Condor handled, and he says, yeah, I know. He says, when I was over at the 6-day trials,
in Europe that he rode it a number of times in. He says there was a Swiss team over there at the time, and he says, and every time I came around a corner, there was 3 or 4 of them guys down in the rocks or in the bushes somewhere. It really handles very bad. It's a clumsy motorcycle. No one has the magic of the handle of the Limeys. Nobody. The Japs may make beautiful little engines and all that sort of thing, but the bikes that handle, the British know the magic. And they don't even know why they know it, but they know it. The British know how to make bikes that handle good.
Road bike.
Any kind of. When it comes to handling, the Limeys have got a magic about it.
What's the Sun bike here?
That's an old Beezer there, nothing particularly exotic there. That's just an old BSA, the 49 BSA. Standard thing was pretty common bike. Nothing really special about it.
What are you doing with these bikes?
I fix them up and play with them.
What's your favorite bike of all time?
Indian Scout.
Yeah, an old Indian Scout. It's when I put the most miles on. I think I pushed that Indian Scout further than most people have ridden motorcycles.
You have one of the most beautiful little Indian Scouts you ever seen in your life.
You don't think the BMW is a handy little nifty bike, huh?
The BMWs have always been ill handlers, but you usually never find that out from BMW owners, because BMW has got this reputation of running so long without any trouble. I think that's based on the fact that most BMW riders are the type of people that maintain their machines. And I think another reason they got such a legendary staying together ability is that nobody who buys an underpowered, ill-handling, ugly motorcycle is also going to tell you it ever broke.
That's true.
Same thing with Volkswagens, right? Anybody buys an ugly little car, he's going to tell you it breaks. They're never going to admit it, so you don't get the truth. BMWs, if they're hammered hard, they'll bust just as quick as anything else. There is no magic super machine. If there was, there'd be only it.
Why do you think Harley didn't continue to advance their product after the...
I think Harley's attitude was they didn't need to do that. You know, Harley's never made more motorcycles than they could sell.
They haven't?
No.
People just buy them out of just because it says Harley Davidson.
Harley's always been managed well. They never build more motorcycles than they can sell. And I think Harley has always kind of been happy enough with status quo wherever they were. And let's face it, nobody ever advertised it anywhere else except Popular Mechanics or in a motorcycle magazine, when maybe there'd been only one of them up until recently, and that was never even in color. Who would have ever thought to see a motorcycle advertisement on a park bench or a billboard or in Life magazine? A motorcycle ad? Never.
Where did Triumph drop their ball? When they built the 3-cylinders?
No, I think the Triumph thing just fits in with everything that's been happening in England. And it's, for one thing, at the time when they came out with the Trident,
yeah,
it was time for a 4, not a 3. Anyone who would have built a 4 would have sold it. Anyone. I don't care who did it. At that particular period of time, the whole motorcycle world was ready for 4-cylinder engine. And Honda did it. And now everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
It was just a persistent, I think, a part of the time. People wanted a 4-cylinder motorcycle. They want a 3-cylinder. And all they had to do was look through history, and every 3-cylinder engine that's ever been made was not a big seller. Never was. Clearly, you look way back in automotive history, the 3-cylinder engine. Like the Compound, which was an American 3-cylinder engine. You never heard of it, right? The DKW, Saab, that used a 3-cylinder DKW engine. Sell a jillion of them in Europe, not here. A 3-cylinder, that won't work. There's something just oddball about 3-cylinder engines.
Do they still sell Triumphs?
I really don't know what's going on over there anymore. Yeah, I don't think they're...
It's like that on that 5-cylinder.
Yeah, they got a 5 out now, one of the German companies. Yeah, well, the Germans always been great on making them crazy numbers. Now, airplane engines, of course, are usually oddball. The radials, but they have to be.
Well, the Germans originally, they started screwing with that 5-cylinder engine that was designed for a diesel. They found out with 5 cylinders, with an odd amount of cylinders in a diesel, it ran smoother than with an even number. Somehow I got dumped into their gasoline engine where they said they could get the performance of an inline 6-cylinder, the smoothness of it, yet the economical aspects of a 4-cylinder by using 5.
Yeah, I know diesels have 5.
But it's back to the same thing like cars that look like airplanes. They've never sold.
That's true.
Fairdian motorcycles. Now they're trying it again.
Who?
Fairdian motorcycle. The motorcycle with a body on it. You know, you can't see the engine.
Okay. Fairdian.
Every time someone tries that, it's a disaster. They don't sell them.
Fat Girl had in Batman.
Yeah.
A bat cycle.
Yeah, by the way, we don't know what ever happened to that little bat scooter. That disappeared somewhere. I think I threw it in the trash. But the Fairdian motorcycle never sold. I think they will now. I think the motorcycle thing has changed around. The Fairdian motorcycle will now sell. Because we've got people riding motorcycles nowadays that are totally different from what it was 30 years ago. People are absolutely different. They don't even care about the engines. All they do is care about it working. They don't want to look at the engine. They don't want to mess with the engine. They see no beauty in the engine. Every time they get on it, the thing fires up with an electric starter and away they go. They go over to the dealer, get their oil changed, get it washed, get it serviced.
And now cars and motorcycles cost about the same.
You even notice that nobody waves at each other anymore, motorcyclists. That irritates me. And if your bike breaks, do you think the next motorcyclist come by is going to stop and help you? Nope. He don't care about you if he's riding one of these, these bikes that you can't fall in love with. See, like a thing like the Scott is a cantankerous, weird motorcycle, right? And like a Velocat was a classic example of a cantankerous motorcycle. You look at a Velocat, it's the most beautiful design you can think of, but sometimes they just absolutely refuse to start. And you had to love them. You pat them on the tank and say, come on, sweet baby, you're going to run, and it would do it. But if you didn't like that motorcycle, that thing wouldn't start up for you. So the only way you could live with that motorcycle was to fall in love with it. Not like the first K-model Harleys. With the magnetos, everybody had so much trouble starting them. I never had a bit of trouble with them because I liked them. It's, see, a love affair with a motorcycle is the same sort of thing as a love affair with a woman. Suppose you got one that never argued. Wouldn't that be a bore? She did everything you ever wanted her to do, right? So you get on a motorcycle that does the same thing, and the motorcycle's a big bore. Fires up every morning, does everything it's supposed to do, never argues, everything works, right? It never fails, it's just there, right? No. You can't fall in love with a motorcycle that everything works right on.
That's right, I never thought about that.
Well, yeah, wouldn't it be a bore to have an old lady that just never argued, did the same thing all the time?
Same place.
That's why I like weird motorcycles that no one ever heard of. Because then I can take them all to pieces.
I forgot to give you this.
Oh,
it's a little
that's
rat,
neat.
Little rat snake pin here.
Who's making them? Kazan?
I still have my
See
original
Kazan's business card?
For crying out loud, that's far out.
Wow.
That's a business card?
That's a business card. The trouble is it keeps falling out of your wallet. It's heavy. It's a solid piece of brass.
Good Lord.
And that's porcelain. Yeah.
You're jazzy.
Yeah, he makes these little pins and stuff back east.
And one of these days I'm going to put my rat
something?
paint kit together as soon as I find the glue.
I don't have the vaguest notion of how that's done.
I think they did in Japan. Silk screen process.
That's why I carry it. I don't
know how it was done. I don't know how this thing was made.
That's it.
There's no way they can be a Honda stripe for 3 years.
What's that?
The flat trackers for Harley always win.
That's a different world.
Yeah, but that's more what the American people.
Well, we're running out of tape here, and we're going to let Dutch go back to his cronies. And I want you guys out there to do me a favor. If there's anything we left out that you got problems with, like whatever it might be, if you're working, like, example, in a dump and there's fumes coming at you and the paint won't dry, whatever it is, I want you to write me, Big Daddy Roth, a letter and let me know what the problem is. And I'll get on the horn to Dutch. If the two of us can't figure it out, I don't know where you're going to find the answer. You got, like, you're working under a tree, which I always thought was best. Tree, because there's no rent, nobody bugging you out there, and you got a problem with the striping not drying, or brush don't go right, you got a problem with the brush. I want you guys to get hold of me, because we don't know what the problem is out there. Until you write me or call me and let me know, I have no idea what you're looking for. I think Dutch is giving you the best of the 2 generations that he's had in his family of the sign painting and striping, and with the little rat pink pen now, I know he's going to do a whole lot better. So see you later, gang. It's Big Daddy Roth signing off.
Doer.